This is Arcadia on the River, and we are a luxury living community. We are known for our awesome amenities that we have here, additional to our luxury style cottages. Be sure to come visit us and meet the Arcadia family. We look forward to seeing you soon. Bye guys.
Hello and welcome to GC360, where news comes full circle. I'm Zaria Golston.
And I'm Ryan Ballman. Coming up on GC360, a special edition for our last program of the semester. We'll be featuring the work of our senior journalism students.
Ahead, stories produced for their Enterprise Journalism Capstone course. One prominent topic, diversity on the Georgia College campus. What can art contribute to the conversation?
And a meeting between African American students and administrators that caused quite the stir. That and much more coming up.
Georgia College is working to improve our campus climate, this time in the art form. But will these pieces help spread awareness about diversity? Carson Gregors dives further into the newest addition to the A&S hallways.
New additions have appeared on the walls of the Arts and Sciences building. The art project titled GC was produced by a class called Art and Social Justice. Georgia College professors Valeria Ronda and Sandra Godwin taught it in 2012. Featuring minority students, these paintings aim to create a discussion about the lack of diversity on campus. Carrie Pompey, a subject for the project, said Georgia College's student population hasn't changed much since 2012, despite diversity awareness campaigns.
All these diversity inclusion programs are great, but they're just being a face right now, and they're really not containing the source of the problem. There's very little minority students here. And the imbalance is threatening, and it's terrible.
The faces hanging around A&S were put into storage after their display in the library. At the request of Beauty Braggs, the chair of the English department, the portraits hang for a different purpose.
My real interest in having them come out was an aesthetic one. I do think they're beautiful paintings. And and they're on this large scale, and we have these big empty walls in A&S, and I just thought, what if we had something beautiful in those spaces?
The portraits have not gone unnoticed by students.
About a week or two ago, they started popping up. I'm not personally sure where they came from. I didn't know what happened. I just kind of came to class one day and was like, oh, look at these beautiful portraits all around.
The GC project started because a class sought to bring diversity to campus. According to reports released by the University System of Georgia, in the fall semester of 2012, 82% of the enrolling students at Georgia College were white. In the fall semester of 2017, 81% of the enrolling students at Georgia College were white. The portraits in A&S now hang as a reminder that promoting diversity alone doesn't bring extensive change. For Georgia College, I'm Carson Gregors.
The Black Student Alliance hosted its first Let Your Voice Be Heard session earlier this semester, with some students voicing their issues with the administration. GC360's Jai Fitzgerald has more.
Georgia College is home to many organizations. Each is unique in its own way. But there is one organization that aims to address diversity issues more than others. More specifically, Georgia College's Black Student Alliance. Earlier this month, Black Student Alliance hosted a forum to tackle important issues concerning the minority student body and bringing them directly to the Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Andy Luter, and Assistant Provost, Dr. Carolyn Denard. Some students felt like their voices weren't heard by the administration, specifically with the format of the meeting.
Some of the things that were said in the meeting, I feel like that the Assistant Provost didn't really take as serious as the Dean of Student Affairs did. She came off as playing like the devil's advocate and kind of making it seem like that we were ungrateful students as far as the things that we have on campus.
I kind of wish that it had been more structured. I think there were a lot of times where it kind of got off track, or it was things that were kind of out of the control of the administration. And I do think that a lot of it too is our responsibility to find out. I think a lot of the questions are things that already kind of exist in the university, if people just kind of took the time to go look for it and know that it was available to them, because I know those resources really tried to make them as accessible as possible. Another thing too that I kind of wished was that it had been more inclusive. It was very much painted as an African American and white issue, when the diversity issues on our campus are a lot bigger than that. I mean, there's the Latino community, there's the Asian community, religious minorities, or the LGBTQ community that were almost entirely left out of the conversation. So I think moving forward, we just need to make sure that we are reaching out to all of those groups and seeing that it's a bigger conversation.
After reaching out to Dr. Denard to get her response to the students' reactions, this is what she had to say.
Takeaways for me was what I think would be helpful for underrepresented students on majority white campuses is to have an opportunity to really empower themselves in how they navigate this space. It's one thing to say I don't feel welcome or invited or comfortable, and it's another thing to say I have the tools in my own toolkit to establish my own sense of belonging and connection and validation of this place.
There was a second follow-up meeting this past Wednesday. More details are to come. This is Jai Fitzgerald.
Coming up after the break.
More stories produced by our Enterprise Journalism seniors. Are high school transfers becoming an issue in the state of Georgia? Stick with us to find out.
At the Grove, and we are located directly across the street from the Georgia College dorms, which is within walking distance from the campus. We offer 2 and 3 bedroom apartments here. We have 2 resort-style pools, a 24-hour fitness center. So just take a short stroll across the street from Georgia College and come check us out.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Listen now, can you hear the bluebirds? Oh, look up now, can you feel the sun? Whoa, 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 whoa. Can you feel the sun?
There's something fishy going on in Georgia College Club sports, as one of their own climbs in the polls. GC360's Jennifer Jacobs went out on the water to find out more.
With 2 of the state's major lakes within 40 miles of Georgia College's campus, it is only fitting that the university's bass fishing team is among the top in the nation. Robert Keene, president of the club sport, and 17 other anglers make up the team, and currently sit 54th out of 251 teams, but are expected to climb as polls update in the Cabela's Collegiate Bass Fishing Tournament Series. They fish lakes throughout the southern region of the country, stretching all the way through Texas, including Lake Seminole, Pickwick Lake, Toledo Bend, Kentucky Lake, and Gunnersville Lake. Bass fishing is not for the impatient. For Robert Keene, it means more than just sitting on the boat, staring at the water.
It's probably my favorite place to be, because you're out there on the water, driving fast, on the open water, catching fish. So it's kind of a getaway, I guess you could say, from the school.
As for Chase Williams, fishing is like solving a puzzle.
Constantly changing conditions, trying to figure out how to catch the biggest fish you can with the conditions constantly changing, and it's pretty rewarding, and it's just a good getaway from everything, school, everything.
Most
For the guys, nothing compares to the feel of the aggressive tug on the end of the fishing rod. It ends with a smile and a picture. And for the fish, he's released back into the lake, just to go through it all over again. For Georgia College, I'm Jennifer Jacobs.
There's a group of girls you won't want to cross paths with over at West Campus. Jennifer Jacobs went over to the fields to get the scoop.
A sorority girl, an outdoor education major, an art therapy student, a fashionista, a pre-law student. So how are they similar? They play one of the most violent sports in the world.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Rugby. And they play with the men.
So when we started the team, we had probably at least 10 girls who were really interested, who were friends with the men's team or who had played in high school and stuff, who wanted to try and start the women's rugby team. So we had a pretty good foundation coming into it.
The women's rugby team was started on Georgia College's campus in the fall of 2016. During their first season, the team went undefeated until they lost in the Tropical Sevens tournament in Florida. While women's rugby is not common on many college campuses, the women reach out to colleges they know have teams to set up games. They have played Lander, University of Miami, University of Central Florida and South Florida, and the University of Florida.
Gosh, it's nerve-wracking, but it's also super empowering. There is no emotion, you just feel nothing, but it's also you have an adrenaline rush, so it's also super hyping up. So
Ready, go!
There are no games this season for the women. Instead, on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they practice to work on the fundamentals and improving their game.
As soon as the first girl hits you or looks at you the wrong way, it's such an adrenaline rush. It is the fastest 14 minutes of your entire life.
The girls on the team have no prior rugby experience, but most played sports in high school. While they are self-taught, the women practice with the men's team on Wednesdays, where they are able to gain more insight on the game of rugby.
It's really eye-opening, especially because in high school it was really only guys that were doing it, and it was hard enough to get, high school guys, let alone try and do middle school and elementary teams.
The women play by the same rules as the men. When people find out these women play rugby, questions are often asked about why.
Run a quick switch, come on.
People think it's a male-dominated sport, but when you see girls playing, when you see them playing with the same intensity that guys do, it's both uplifting, and I feel super empowered when I'm playing. I feel great when I'm playing.
I love contact and I love running, and that's exactly what rugby is. So it's very, like I said, I very much get a rush, and it's exciting too.
One of the reasons that I joined rugby was to get out my aggression and relieve stress. So I kind of think about the things that I'm stressed about and channel that into my playing.
Despite the developmental season and taking time off of games, the women look forward to competing next season. For Georgia College, I'm Jennifer Jacobs.
Transfer students can bring a big boost to a team. In Georgia, many question whether transferring should be allowed in high school athletics. Many believe transferring has become an issue that puts some small schools at a competitive disadvantage, while others disagree. Isaiah Smith has more on this debate.
For some small high schools in Georgia, players transferring poses a colossal problem without a clear solution. Transfers can negatively impact the level of competition in the state.
I think too many kids are moving. From a parent and educator standpoint, what are we teaching kids when they're just looking for greener grass? It's easy to pick up and move to somewhere where the grass is already green. I think kids learn valuable lessons by fighting through the tough times and making the program they're in a better situation.
The Georgia High School Association's bylaws contain 5 pages of rules to govern the 6,000 transfers they had for all sports this year.
The biggest rule is if when a move is made by a student, it has to be a bona fide move, and the bona fide move is defined by whoever lived in the previous residence. All members move to the new residence, and they relinquish their old residence.
Some believe the GHSA's enforcement of its rules has been lax.
You know, it's tough for them. I think they usually do turn a blind eye, because once you get into investigating this and, you know, checking on houses here and there, you're going to turn over some stones and find a lot of nasty stuff, and that's opening Pandora's box.
There are many differing opinions about where this problem comes from.
I think a lot of parents are under the impression that we have to go to the metro areas to receive a college scholarship. I think that leads at number one. And so I think a lot of times you see kids from rural areas moving into metro areas so they can be part of that, and they feel like they're getting more college coaches watching them.
Others, like Sandy, say the problem stems from other places.
I think as far as basketball goes, the stem of it, most of it does come from the AAU circuit. It is good for honing your development and skills, playing with other good players, but in the same way, there can be some undue influence.
The AAU, or Amateur Athletic Union, is a youth sports organization whose goal is to help athletes showcase their skills to college scouts and coaches. Hines and those at the GHSA office attribute the rise in transfers to Georgia's growth as a state.
The metro area grows at a faster rate than the South Georgia or the Northeast or the Northwest. There's always a lot of movement in metropolitan areas.
Still, coaches and analysts say that transfers give metro area schools an advantage. According to the Sandy's Spiel High School Basketball Transfer List, there were 108 transfers for the 2017-2018 season. Of these transfers, only 20 involved players outside of the Metro Atlanta or Augusta areas. There is no consensus on how to handle this issue.
I would need a great crew that would be legit, like investigators. I have to start from the top down. I'm more concerned about where the big fish are moving around, where there is more likely to be money involved and some more shady stuff.
Still, others like Cleveland have a different solution.
I eliminate AAU. I think that takes a lot out of it. I would allow head coaches at high schools to work with their kids year round. I think if you do that, you cut out a large portion of the problem.
But Hines says cheating isn't as pervasive as some believe.
When you're dealing with over 6,000 transfers in the state in one school year, that's an awful lot. You know, when there are always 3 or 4 issues that we're looking at a given time, and when you look at that number, one number, and compare to the other number, it's a small amount of people that aren't following the rules.
Currently, the GHSA office has no plans to revisit its policies on transfers. Reporting for Georgia College, this is Isaiah Smith.
Very interesting information from Isaiah Smith and Jennifer Jacobs.
We have more from the Enterprise Journalism Capstone students after the break. Stay tuned for an inside look of an academy designed to reform and reshape at-risk youth.
Every student wants housing less than 2 blocks from campus, so join your friends at Prospect. We offer a state-of-the-art pool, study room, fitness center, and coffee bar. Availability is limited, and we offer roommate matching, so call us today. Schedule a tour, come visit, and check out your future home.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom. It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
The Youth Challenge Academy in Milledgeville gives teens a second chance. GC360 producer Natalie Stovall talked to the cadets and administrators about this military-style training program.
Approaching its second year of operation, the Youth Challenge Academy of Milledgeville is preparing to graduate its next class. The National Guard created the Youth Challenge program in 1993 to help reform the lives of troubled young men and women. The program is a voluntary 17-month commitment where at-risk youth will receive their high school diploma or GED. Director of Recruitment and Outreach, David Bill, explains what a cadet should expect out of the challenge.
Their future, but what we want to try to do is help them in a 22-week period to develop their academic credentials, maybe their GED or even a high school diploma, but also develop life skills, money management. They work on job skills, vocational training, in addition to just leadership skills within the quasi-military environment we have.
However, not all of the cadets complete the program. Bill and the rest of the administration mainly lose participants in the first 2 weeks during the acclimation phase.
Because students don't follow the rules, they're either withdrawn due to a medical issue, a disciplinary issue, the parents have decided it may not be for them, so there is some attrition expected.
60 to 65% of the original number of participants is expected to graduate each year. The program's third class began with 146 at-risk youth, but have now dwindled to 90 graduates. The program's facility is available to house around 300 cadets at a time. It is up to the cadets whether to make the most out of the program. As the program comes to a close and graduation, less than a few days away, the cadets reflect on what they have gained from the Youth Challenge Academy.
I lost my attitude. I had a really, really bad attitude.
It taught me, I have to be patient and, it's going to take time to really get what I want.
I feel it's changed me because I feel like I learned a lot more discipline. I felt that I respect people more than I used to.
I found myself a lot, honestly. The program helped me with a lot of different, situations.
The Youth Challenge Academy has provided the tools for their cadets to succeed. It is now up to them to decide what they build from here on out. Some of them have a solid plan and are looking forward to putting those plans into action.
After this, I plan on attending AIM. It's at Atlanta Institute of Music and Media.
Joining the National Guard and going to 4-year college.
I want to be a stenographer.
I will join the U.S. Army.
Enlisting in the Army.
I want to be in the military, and I see the benefits the military has to offer, and I would like to be successful in life.
After graduation, the cadets say goodbye to their second home, and the academy continues to follow their graduated cadets' progress. Some cadets do well, and others do not. As Bill says, you can't save everyone. I'm Natalie Stovall.
Now, we have a life retold through generations. Georgia College senior Amy Strang revisits the life of her great-grandmother, who was a psychiatric patient in Milledgeville nearly 70 years ago.
She was one of the sweetest, kindest women that I'd ever met. She was so loving. She was thoughtful. She was caring. She loved to be around her family. She always made me feel special and always made me feel very loved.
She always was hugging and kissing and laughing, and she just really enjoyed having grandkids.
A vibrant Southern lady. She was truly a Southern lady.
I think she was very sweet. I think she was kind. She cared about other people. I always remember that I knew that she was always going to be home for me, and that as I got older, we really got to be good friends. And I consider her probably my best friend and my mother at the same time. We just had wonderful times together.
To me, she was this very adventurous, strong, very happy woman. So reading and hearing some of this just doesn't match to me.
It was her depression, and she had like a nervous breakdown is what they called it back then. So she was hospitalized several times.
It appears from her scrapbook that I'm assuming is from college days that she was a popular girl and attending parties and girlfriends and dating and dance cards. It seemed like she had a pretty good social life. She may have felt like all she had was take care of the kids, cook and clean, and it doesn't sound like they socialized much outside of that. So she may have felt, I don't know if trapped is a good word, but may have felt like she had a lot more potential to give friendship and love to others and wasn't able to do so because he didn't like to go out. He was evidently a drinker. And even one of these letters to Allen's in Milledgeville referenced that was a concern of my grandmother's, that my granddad drank too much. And after he passed away, her yard man found bottles of alcohol, empty bottles thrown behind bushes and whatnot, and I never have heard about any drunken episodes, but just that he drank a lot.
I think that made it very hard for her to have to live under those conditions.
Actually, when my father died, she did not even go to the funeral. She was so sick then. And I can remember my friends coming over to the house, and she was sitting in a rocking chair. And after he died, in 6 months, she was completely well. And I don't know what these episodes that she had were, but she got completely well and went on to have a good life until her next episode.
And I think that after my grandfather passed away, that perhaps that was when she thought maybe it's a right time for me to get out there and see the world. She went to Egypt, she went to Holland,
Japan, Thailand, Ireland, Germany,
To India, England, France,
Italy, Spain.
I do remember this package coming, wherever she went, this package was coming, and it would be, she would send an outfit, a doll, to all of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was made sure we all had the exact same thing.
She wrote postcards and, brought a lot of things back. I think I'm so glad she got that time in her life to do that.
I wish that
Helen's story
I could have made
continues.
it all better. I don't know why this is just emotional, but I will never forget, she would always tell the girls, you were born a lady. And I will never forget being in that back room, and this was before, I didn't know she was sick. I didn't, or in ill health, but I can remember we went to visit her, and she was in the rocking chair in that back room, and she was just vibrant that day, very strong and healthy. And I will never forget her putting her hand on my knee, and she said, you always remember you were born a lady. And I meant just, squeezed hard and said that. And then that's the last memory I ever had.
Helen's story continues as her great-granddaughter Amy investigates further into her time at Allen's, while also comparing the way mental health was approached in the 1950s as opposed to today. Take a look.
Dear Stanley, I received your letter of July 29th, and it was a distinct shock to read of what you've been going through. I had no idea that such a condition existed, thinking that you were getting along fine and living a nice, quiet, normal life. It's a damn shame that a man has to be burdened with trouble such as you have been. I only hope that Helen will soon regain her strength and be back with you again. I just can't tell you in a letter how I feel. Write me again when you can, and I hope you will have good news to tell me.
For women especially, we didn't have to be very sick to be put away. It was considered to be part of their, in our heads. And women sometimes, maybe not so much in the 50s, but I know earlier, husbands could actually have their wives committed into institutions because of anxiety or depression. And some of them could very well have had, more serious conditions. If The stressor was her family life and her husband and raising children and keeping a house and doing all of this, and removing her from that, teaching her new coping skills or just talking about it with other people.
I think it's just so sad. You know, and then we don't ever really know really and truly the degree of it. Was she just, nobody else knew what to do, so they just sent her somewhere? I think it's disturbing, quite honestly, a little bit. I think that's the sad thing. I wish, you know, that, I guess we were young, but even if we'd been older, I wish there'd been more conversation. You know, we just never knew. Nobody talked about anything like we all do in our families now.
Depression was never discussed in my household, not that I can recall, even after she passed away and as an adult, unless I asked a specific question. But no, it was never discussed.
It was at that point, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and it could be too that she had some postpartum depression. There's been a lot of research into that a lot of women do suffer with postpartum depression. She had 2 small children, very well could have started with that. Or it could have been a hormonal imbalance. We do know that women have hormonal imbalances, which in the 50s and 60s, again, it was treated in our heads.
I don't think that there was like this discussion of we're not going to talk about it. I think that the protocol is you just don't talk about that kind of stuff to anybody, and you kind of keep it really close to your vest, your chest. You don't share that with anyone.
Yeah, I would just say I wish that we could have made it all better, because that was a long period of time to have to suffer through all that.
You know, I know she was hurting, and just to have that empathy and that understanding, because I've had, you know, my own issues. I just feel like that would be something that would make us closer. So I would give anything to be able to have a conversation with her and visit with her and just talk.
That's all the time we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of GC360. We will keep you up to date on our website, GC360news.com, and all of our social media platforms. For GC360, I'm Zaria Golston.
And I'm Ryan Bauman. See you next semester. What a show, Zaria.
Yes, it's been a great semester.
Quite a good semester.
Will you be returning?
No idea.
Okay. All right. That's good.
We'll see what happens.